Okay, cool. Cool. Hi, everyone. So welcome to today's session of Change with Dynamics 365 Non-profit Accelerator. This session is being provided by Nathan Hawkins. So I will ask you for you to keep yourself muted during the presentation to avoid feedback, and also just to ensure that we can all listen to Nathan. So I will help by muting everyone. Okay, great. So Nathan is going to be okay with answering questions during the presentation. So if you do have questions, please feel free to just interrupt him. Take yourself off mute, interrupt him, and ask the question there and there. And this session, as I mentioned, will be recorded, and the recording will be available in a week's time on the D365UG YouTube site. So I'm right now going to hand off to Nathan.
Awesome, thanks a lot. Okay, so I'm here today then to talk about Dynamics 365 and the non-profit accelerator. And there's a couple of aspects I'm going to talk about. First of all, I'll just introduce myself. So I'm Nathan. I'm a solutions architect concentrating on Dynamics and the Power Platform. I've been doing it probably around 14, 15 years now, something like that. So I've thrown up my LinkedIn on the screen there so you can connect with me if you need to, and I've also got an email address. If you've got any specific questions you think of after the presentation, then feel free just to drop me an email. I'm more than happy to answer those for you, no problem at all. So what I'm going to be talking about today then. So first of all, the non-profit accelerator. So I'm kind of assuming everybody knows what Dynamics is and what the Power Platform is, hopefully. For those of you who don't, a brief overview is it's a platform where you can build applications to help with business processes or non-profit processes in this instance really fast. Hopefully you can do that from within your organization. So it's aimed at kind of what we call no code or low code or citizen developers. So, we're trying to enable actual employees of an organization to build stuff for their business. And one of the aspects Microsoft have looked to introduce is this concept of industry accelerators. So on screen here, we've got the non-profit accelerator, which is the one I'm talking about today, but there are a bunch of other ones as well. We've got automotive, financial services, healthcare, manufacturing, media and entertainment. And the purpose of these really is just to try and give a bit of a springboard or a starting point for organizations to get going with Dynamics in the context of their particular industry. And the way that came about is obviously Dynamics now and the Power Platform has been around for quite a long time, and there were many partners who started to specialize in certain verticals, and you'd be going into the same sort of company and you'd be introducing the same kind of concepts. So if you think of non-profits, which could be charities or maybe membership organizations, you go in and you'd always be creating something to handle volunteers, or you go and create something to handle donations and gift aid, etc., etc. And eventually obviously became pretty apparent that we're repeating work, and Microsoft realized that as well. And so what they wanted to do was take all the knowledge that had been harnessed by different partners and try and bring that together into some sort of starting block. And so this is where the concept of the accelerators came from. So, essentially it's a solution that you can download off the internet. So if you go to the Microsoft GitHub site and search for these, you can get the solutions, and basically those solutions, there'll be one or more. You can install those into your Dynamics or your Power Platform instance, and they will give you a bunch of out-the-box entities and relationships pertinent to whatever industry you're looking at. So that was kind of the starting block of where it came from. So that's the concept of the industry accelerators. So the other aspect I just wanted to talk about as well today was something called the Fundraising and Engagement module. So this is another piece of kit that Microsoft have spun up specifically in the non-profit area. And this is more of a product, so it does some actual functionality within Dynamics 365. It gives you, again, some more starting blocks for things like constituent management, for gift processing, communications, and some reporting options as well. So just to kind of highlight what the difference is between the non-profit accelerator and the fundraising and engagement module are. If you kind of think of the non-profit accelerator, that is kind of like the building blocks. So it gives you a data structure, it gives you relationships. You know, and if you go onto the actual GitHub site, it'll give you some overviews of how you could use those particular you know, tables and relationships to model certain aspects of your non-profit organisation. Fundraising engagement is actually a product that Microsoft have built on top of the non-profit accelerator. So what they've done is took the non-profit accelerator as a base. They then added in functionality to enhance certain areas of it. So actually create some business processes or some more complex user interfaces to handle things like donations in a bit slicker format. So that's the key differences. We've got the accelerators, which are kind of the building blocks, and then we have this one product, fundraising engagement, which is you know, actual something you could install and start using without having to look to do any development on top of the accelerator yourself. So that's the kind of key concepts of what I want to talk about today. So I also just wanted to give an overview of, you know, why you should maybe look to start using these, because obviously I can go through the products and show you them and tell you about them, but it's really key, especially in the world at the minute, that you understand the benefits of it, and also where Microsoft are coming and going with this, you know, because they've invested a lot into these particular areas, and they're continuing to do so, developing lots of really new core functionality, and the reasons why they're doing that, you know, which ultimately is to help out non-profits, is their goal, you know, to reinvest money into those areas to obviously make their actual business processes more streamlined, more efficient, which obviously helps with you know, the usage of money within those organisations. So I guess the first thing to kind of highlight is you know, last year, obviously when COVID hit, Microsoft saw a lot of different changes, especially within areas of non-profits, you know. So they're kind of listed on the screen there. A lot of them are pretty obvious, you know, but you get the idea of how impacted non-profits were, especially charities, with what happened. So you know, literally overnight, suddenly everybody started working from home. There were a lot of economic impacts around, you know, people either losing jobs or being furloughed, and so obviously that really impacted a lot of donations that are happening. And it wasn't just obviously donations off people like you and me, it was also, you know, corporations who historically might have been really big donors to charities. They started either, you know, reducing their donation values, or in some instances, you know, totally stopping them. So obviously that had big impacts on it, you know, and as you see on the screen, there's lots of other factors that came into play. So Microsoft obviously recognised kind of all these different issues that were coming up, and they'd already started down the road of the industry accelerators for non-profit, but they quickly started to mature those quite rapidly, especially after, you know, the time that COVID hit. So one of the key things that we found are affecting a lot of charities, especially after COVID came along, was obviously supporters' expectations are changing. You know, they don't have much money, those that can afford to give, obviously putting more thought into, you know, what are they actually going to do with their money, who they're going to give it to, what evidence can they see that that's being used in a particularly good way. So you know, just some stats on the screen there, that, you know, people are more likely to contribute if they can show that technology is being used to improve how they run programs. And there's probably a couple of aspects to that. It's obviously being able to see that, but obviously making it easier for you to donate as well. So me, for instance, it's much more likely I'm probably going to donate if I see an advert on TV for, say, WaterAid, who say, text this number and this word and you'll donate £2 a month, as opposed to, charities that have got more legacy systems that don't have the ability to interact with people and gain donations, and that really easy money, that transaction is quite easy for me to process. I don't have to go around and hunt for a website to do it, that kind of thing. So obviously, demonstration of tech isn't just physically, I know they've got great systems, it's also the way they can communicate with me and get me to actually interact and donate money with them. So donors are more likely to give money if their experience is personalised. Again, another key one. If I don't know, I'm gonna give my £2 a month to a particular charity. If I'm getting regular emails about a guide dog I sponsored or something like that, then that's really motivational. It's again more interactive, and if I can see the benefits, then I'm more likely to give money more regularly. So you can see the kind of the story that interactions and giving a donor experience are really important, especially in the current climate. And then finally, looking at the outcomes. So how can a charity demonstrate an outcome of a donation I've given, for an example? So for a charity to be able to demonstrate, okay, you're given this donation and we have designated to a certain cause, and look, here's the outcome of it. That's again really quite compelling. And if you start to see those results, you're more likely to give more money. So I think of an example a couple of weeks ago where there's a charity where you basically give a loan to someone to start a business, and that's quite interesting because actually at a point in time they'll actually pay that loan back to you, and you'll see the development of their business as time goes on, and that's quite compelling to see. You're actually yourself kind of getting a bit of a reward for that donation that you're giving. So that concept's important, being able to track where the money's going and how it's being used, and the actual outcomes of that is again quite important. So obviously that results in a bunch of challenges that non-profits are facing. So we've got kind of a list of the common things here. So obviously collaboration, it's become hard. A lot of charities would do events and fundraising things like that. They've all gone out the window. Hopefully they'll be back pretty soon, but at the minute that has all gone. So communicating with people has become harder. Understanding constituents. So constituent, just to clarify, that can be anyone who interacts with a charity. It could be a donator, a supporter, it could be a contact at an organisation, that kind of thing. But just being able to understand the relationship, how often are they interacting with us, how much money are they giving to us, how do they prefer to interact is important, because if you can discover the aspects of that constituent, then you'll be more able to control what you do with them, and hopefully make sure you're communicating in the right way, etc. Managing gifts, so how to log the gifts correctly, be able to log how they're being used, where they're being used, who are the beneficiaries, that kind of thing. It's probably worth saying at this point that actually obviously it's a Microsoft product. A lot of the terminology out of the box is kind of more slanted towards the US, so gifts really are donations in our terms in the UK. Insight, so lack of insight really. We potentially can have a lot of data within our systems. Those systems could be disparate. Bringing that all together is difficult. Obviously with a Dynamics Power Platform, hopefully we're going to get a lot of that in one place, and we can use all the tools that Microsoft provide to give us the insights around that. And that kind of carries over to the last one around the data silos. There's a lot of disconnected systems generally, whether that be the standard Excel sheets or Access databases or other third-party IT systems that data's stored in. So what Microsoft wanted to try and do was address those issues basically trying to make nonprofits more efficient in their digital journey, so that they can start to improve these areas, and that improvement would lead to better understanding of their donors or members, which obviously could result in better service or more donations, or that kind of thing, which again is really important. So a lot of charities were kind of reactive to things going on, so trying to move that to be proactive, so we'll gather the data together in a system that is well structured. We can get the insights from, and we can act on those insights as well. The siloed data view, well, hopefully we're going to be bringing data in. Could still be from different systems, but we've got the tools to bring it into this one system and make it, really a 360 review of a supporter, whoever, and get that all in the context of the one person, which obviously again could be useful for someone trying to look and analyse how that constituent is working within the charity. Again, incomplete data, so data all over the place, but bringing that together into one area is really helpful. And then reporting, obviously being able to generate reports off the back of that data we've gathered. What money's been donated, what are the outcomes of that being donated to us, demonstrating that back, and there's kind of a lot of organisations, if you've got some high value givers that are particularly giving large amounts of money to you, it's good to be able to demonstrate how you're using that and the impact it's had. So Microsoft kind of came up then based on that, especially with the fundraising engagement side of things, of kind of a new vision, they called it, for a non-profit. So what they're trying to do is, be more mindful of your constituents. We look at what they're doing, how much they're giving to us, how regularly they're doing that, what are they giving to us in the future, and it's almost like a pipeline of things that are coming to us, and we can manage that better and act on it. If donors cancel regular giving, or if they up regular giving or something, they're all kind of signs that we should interact with that particular donor or supporter. We've got the ability to use the system to interact better with them from a marketing point of view. So again, because we're pushing everything into Dynamics or the Power Platform, there are lots of tools that Microsoft given us, such as Dynamics Marketing, that we can use to start building customer journeys. So if they give us a donation, we can react to it really quickly and say, great, thank you for that. Have you thought about donating to this other cause, that kind of thing, so we can really manage and nurture their journey within the business. Again, building on that, trying to get relationships better between the organisation and donors again. So if we go back to that high value giver concept, where we've got corporations who are giving large amounts to us, we've got the ability to manage that within fundraising engagement. So we've got the concept of the opportunity and how we move that through different stages, and how we make sure we're interacting with that corporation at the right points, pulling them into the right areas of our charity when we need them to. So whether that's events or sponsorship for different things, we can manage all that and act upon anything that happens during that particular journey. And the last one, kind of increasing the lifetime value. So again, it's about making your supporters and your constituents feel kind of valued, giving them the information they need to know that the money they're giving to you is being used well, and that encourages them to keep giving money to you. So the other thing that is worth highlighting around this as well is, there might be some people who aren't using Dynamics at the minute, or the Power Platform, and just the reasons as to why you might want to start doing that. So I just wanted to give a bit of a timeline, a bit of an overview of what's happened with this particular piece of tech. So the Non-profit Accelerator, it's actually kind of like 3 years old almost now. It was launched back in 2018. And you can see that it's had regular updates right up until now, and there's another one due to hit soon, which has got some even more cool features in. But you can see that there is investment in it, and quite regular investment. And literally with every new release they do, they bring in a bunch of new functionality. Some of it is really cool, and I know in the next one they've revamped a lot of it well to use some of the new tech that we've got coming along in the Power Platform, and it's even better than it is now. And I guess, why is that important to show? Well, it basically was showing that, you know, Microsoft is investing. They're not going to forget about this particular concept. You know, these are being built upon a really cool platform. Lots of people are using it already, and they want to push that and make sure that that keeps happening. So, you know, if you think that Dynamics has been around in one form or another for, you know, many years now, I don't even know what it's, probably about 17 years now, then it shows that they're still going to invest in this over time. That's really important, and probably this slide demonstrates why that's kind of important. A lot of the charities we get involved with do tend to have vendor, what we call vendor lock-in issues. You know, so basically they've bought a piece of software. Sometimes it could be quite an old piece of software, you know, 15 years or so. Other times it could actually be more recent than that. And the problem with it is they get this vendor lock-in, and what that means is they're tied to that vendor. They might have invested quite a bit of money in something, and that means as a non-profit, they don't particularly want to move away from it, or it's hard for them to move away from it. And the reasons that could be is, so number one, there's maybe they've got financial pressures. Maybe this piece of software is quite expensive. But obviously, if they're running their business on day to day, that makes it more difficult to move away. We've had instances where there's been a decline in service from the vendor. So, you know, that could be anything from financial issues in the vendor, that they're not able to invest in it, fix bugs, that kind of thing. Or we've even had instances where, you know, the vendor was quite a small company, and you know, the owner's retiring literally, and the software is kind of going into a stagnant period, or it won't be developed anymore, it'll just be supported. Issues with devices, you know, the working on a legacy piece of software that could be like Access database backend, and you know, you're limited as to what devices you can use that, or, you know, you can't use it on your iPad or your Android phone. That's an issue. And also the final one is data access. So, you know, they've bought a piece of software off the vendor, and actually it's hosted somewhere in the vendor cellar, and they can't really get access to the data and use it in any useful way to get the insights that they may need. So the reason I generally throw this up is because, you know, if you're a charity looking to move into this Microsoft product, then you don't really have to worry about any of these concepts. You know, it's a Microsoft product. Stands a chance you're probably using Microsoft products already, you know, Word, Excel, Outlook, whatever. Microsoft is a massive company. They've got no, you know, financial issues. They don't have service issues. You know, their customer service is really awesome. It stands a chance they're not going to go out of business, or at least for a very long time. Dynamics Power Platform works on, you know, pretty much all the common devices. You haven't got to worry about that. And the access to data is kind of really infinite. You know, you can get in via the application itself and export to Excel, and there are a whole host of other ways you can get that data out if you need to and access it. So kind of the common issues that you might get with vendor lock-in don't really apply to Dynamics in the Power Platform, which is really compelling for non-profits. And also on top of that, you've got to think about the fact that, you know, it is a Microsoft product, and so it integrates with lots of things, which is really important. You know, again, Word and Excel, Microsoft Teams, that kind of thing. You're going to get great integration and collaboration across Microsoft products, which can be really important for, again, managing your business processes. So a quick overview of what you get then. So there's this concept of the common data model, which is essentially the non-profit accelerator is a set of tables and fields that's built on top of the common data model. So it gives you pre-built, like I say, areas that you can input data into and relate it to other areas of the system. So There's a bunch of them there. We probably won't go into masses of detail around it, but you've got constituent management, fundraising, so kind of events and marketing campaigns, things like that. Program delivery, so if you're a charity that maybe works overseas, delivering programs out to different countries, you can manage and track that within there. Donation management, obviously a key one, to being able to log donations. And fundraising engagement actually gives you payment integration as well. So you can take credit card payments via some of the common providers. Again, it's a little bit slanted towards the US, but it's got things like Stripe in there and that you can use. Volunteer management, so onboarding volunteers and logging what skills and things they have. And then we've got things like grant and award management, so how are we using the money, who are we rewarding it to, that kind of thing. And then beneficiary management, so actually looking at individuals, seeing who might need money and assessing if they're eligible for it, etc. And then just talk around kind of the common things. So like I say, it is a building block. The non-profit accelerator doesn't come with a boatload of processes out of the box, so you can use it as a starting point and extend it. It's a great springboard, so whether it's to using Word, sending that out to people, Excels to do kind of interrogation of the data. You can do all the Outlook usual stuff you'd expect about emails out to people and calendar control, things like that. You can build Power Apps. I'll show you a couple of Power Apps that have been built a bit later on. And then, as I've already mentioned, like integration with Microsoft Teams, it's great. Microsoft Planner as well, if you want to use that, that's really cool. Power Automate for workflow, and obviously Power BI for reporting. So everything I'm going to show today is available for you yourself to go off and look at as well. So both of these concepts, the non-profit accelerator and fundraising engagement, are available on AppSource. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but essentially it's kind of the Microsoft shop for software. So I did have it open just to show you that if you browse to one of those URLs, you'll get to this page. So here's the non-profit one, and there's an option to hit test drive. So if you click on that, basically it'll ask you to sign in with a work or school account, just so it's got kind of a way of tying the test drive back to you. And then it'll give you access to everything I've talked about today, and you'll be able to go on and have a play around with it. Nothing's installed on your infrastructure, it's totally separate. So after, I think it's about 7 days, you'll lose access to it, but you can kind of play around with all the concepts and things I've talked around in there, which is really cool. And there's a bunch of links out to the various kind of sites and etc., and some videos and bits and bobs there that are worth a look. So that's pretty much it for the slides. I was just going to go now and just show you some of the aspects of the application itself, just so you get an idea of what it is and what it looks like. So I'll start off probably first of all with the non-profit accelerator. So this, like I say, it's not particularly functionality, it's just the building block. So it's mostly tables and relationships, like I say, but when you install it or when you look at your test drive, you'll get a bunch of apps out of the box. You'll know which ones they are because at the bottom here they'll say Microsoft Dynamics 365 Non-Profit Accelerator. So there's about 8 or 9 in total now. So we've got just an administration one, assessments for field operation stuff. We've got case management, awards, delivery framework stuff there. We've got your constituent management, basic fundraising. There's a hub there which I think collates everything into one app, operations toolkit, and then program management. Okay, so the idea is that the apps are targeted to particular areas of your organisation. So in general, a user may only see one of those apps, or maybe 2 or 3 of those apps at a time. That in general, they wouldn't have all of them in one place. They're targeted at particular areas, just for particular functions. Okay, so if I click into one of these, for instance, if I click into fundraising, I'm not going to concentrate too detailed on these because, like I say, there's not much functionality in there. But for instance, if I look at the transaction entity, open that up, it's pretty basic. You know, it's a form. It's got a lot of the fields on there that you'd expect for a donation. You know, so who was the donation from? What was the amount? What currency was it? When was it received? That kind of thing. You know, do I need to adjust it? Is it eligible for gift aid and that kind of thing? So pretty standard stuff. But you can see that literally it is just a way of collating the data together. Nothing particularly helping you have some sort of process or give you any insights into it. So for that reason, I'm not going to concentrate too much on the non-profit accelerator. I'm going to flip over to the fundraising and engagement because I feel that's got a bit more meat on the bone, you know, as far as being able to see how a business could pick up and use this. So if I head over to fundraising and engagement, so in here, if I was to install this into Dynamics, I get slightly less apps that are actually relevant to fundraising and engagement. So I can see on here I've got the non-profit ones themselves, but as far as actual fundraising, this is the main one here, which is fundraising engagement. You can see that's labeled as Microsoft Tech for Social Impact. So if I click on that to open it up, so straight away, I've got some dashboards in here, pre-built dashboards, which are cool, you know, give me some insights around things. But I've also down the bottom here got a lot more areas to go and interrogate and look at. So for instance, if I go over to the fundraising, here I've got a dashboard that shows me all the donations I'm getting, you know, how they come via a campaign, how they come via recurring payments, you know, and that kind of thing, and, you know, how they're split out by the income channel they've got. If I go over and look at my contacts, and if I look at Gabriella, then we've got some kind of custom controls. So this is where the difference between the non-profit accelerator and fundraising engagement comes out. Non-profit is the forms and the way we kind of store the data, but fundraising engagement gives us more process-driven stuff. So straight away, I've got kind of this information panel here that tells me a lot about this particular supporter. I've got here an opportunity that's currently in progress. I've got any recurring gifts that happened, her last gift amount, how much given over a lifetime, you know, what she's influenced in the way of opportunities, you know, is she a member? And then also details about her household, who's in the household, how much have they given, etc., etc. So I get a lot more information kind of surfaced and presented to me, which can be really useful. There's also some other kind of productivity enhancements on here. So for instance, we've got, you know, an update address option, which you don't get just with the standard accelerator. So it shows me their current address. I can click on here and change it and update it. And if I do that, then what I also get is a history of any address changes that happen. So in the context of certainly the UK, that's useful that if maybe I want to claim backdated gift aid, I need to ensure that I'm using the correct details for and having that history there means that even if I've got gift aid from, you know, say 2 years back and the person's moved, I can actually make sure I capture the right details for that to process that gift aid through to HMRC, that kind of thing. So that's really useful. We've got some more tailored views on this app around donation history of this person. You know, when was the last donation, what are their related transactions, what are they committed to via pledges or whatever it is, have they got any payment schedules with us, how are they related to, you know, what campaigns do they come to. So a lot more data presented to us in a more useful fashion than just the standard accelerator. I can go in and the common theme is that wherever I go in here, there's this kind of information panel, which is really helpful. So again, if I go into the household area, when it loads up, you'll see that I'll get the overview for that particular household, again, in a more useful format. So here we go. Here's the overview for that household, similar to what we saw on the other page, but kind of rolled up together. So I can see it across this particular property that these people live in. So that's quite useful as well. And then if I look at something like the donations, for instance, so if I go to gifts, so the transaction entity we looked at in the not-for-profit accelerator was, it was literally just a form, and that was it. If I look at what we've got in fundraising engagement, you can see I've got a more targeted user interface. So we've got a custom control down the bottom here, where I can actually start inputting data into it, and there's some more targeted information it's trying to capture from me. So what sort of gift is it, how do we want to process it, how did we get it, that kind of thing. We can put in the amounts it was, and we can actually process that. And for instance, if it was I don't know, like a credit card payment, and we could process that against the payment provider, so it captures a lot more information in there than what the non-profit accelerator does on its own. So remember, we've got this concept of it's a product, and it's trying to add value to that non-profit accelerator. So interfaces around being able to just add how that's designated, so we can quickly add in the designation for this donation, which obviously that all feeds into data that can be used for insights, which is really useful. And the other cool thing in here as well is a lot of our charities do batch donations, so they'll get whatever it is, a pile of checks in, a pile of CAF vouchers or something like that, and they'll want to group those together in a batch. So here we've got this ability to do our batch donation, so we can define a bunch of header stuff, and then we've got a way to actually start again inputting lines, so like I say, if you've got maybe a pile of checks or something like that, you can input those checks as you go, check them as they go. You can set the header information that's pertinent to those and process those as one batch, rather than doing an individual record for each, which again is really common situation with a lot of charities, but this kind of covers off the ability to do that. So that's a real cool piece of functionality as well. So with this, what I'd do is I'd urge you to go and spin up a test drive if you're interested in this for fundraising engagement, and look around here. There's just so much in there to go figure out, is that functionality relevant to my business? How would that work? How could I use that? It's impossible to show in this session everything there, but just a quick overview to give you the basic, the direction that this is a product that has got some really good process improvement in it over and above what the non-profit accelerator gives you itself. So that's key. It's also worth saying, both the products are provided free by Microsoft to non-profits. So non-profit accelerator, you can go and download that and install it within your instance. Fundraising engagement, because it is a product, is a little different. It is free, but you've got to have a sales enterprise license, I think it is, to be able to use it. So there is a license cost associated with the Dynamics instance you installed it on, but the functionality itself and the solution is free. You can add that in at no cost if you're a not-for-profit. Okay, so my voice is breaking up a little, which is a bit awkward, but the next thing I just wanted to move on to was just to show you around some of the mobile apps. So obviously this is built on the Power Platform. The idea is that you can take one of these products, which is, like I say, this real good sort of starting point for non-profit, but you should be able to extend it yourself. Maybe you've got a process that you do lots of events and you want to capture donor details at the events. Well, that's when you would spin up an app to do that. You can spin up a Power App. And again, if you're not familiar with that, that's just a way of users, again, citizen developers, being able to construct an app that's hooked into this particular Dynamics instance as a backend, so you can capture data really quickly, but you don't have to be a developer to be able to do that. So again, with fundraising engagement, they give you a Power App just to give you a demonstration of that. So I was quickly going to fire that up just to show you what it looks like and the concepts around it. So I'm going to do something dangerous and hook up my mobile phone now to the computer just so we can see that happening. Okay, so here we go. So what you can do is if you install the Fundraising and Engagement solution on your Dynamics, you will get some Power Apps spun up as well, and one of them is just around timesheet and expenses. So if I just fire that up on my phone, you see I've got this time and expense application. So the idea of this is that if you've got volunteers out in the field, you know, whatever they're doing, it stands a chance they could be incurring expenses, and most likely you might want them to do timesheets for budgetary reasons, etc. So this is a Power App, like I say, that's provided with the solution that just allows you to do that. It's not particularly pretty, but it's functional, and that's the whole point of it. So I've got here a summary of my timesheets that I haven't submitted yet, and a summary of some of my expenses. So now, if I'm out in the field, we can install this on, you know, the most common mobile devices. As you expect, it could be a tablet as well if you wanted to, and I can say, okay, well, you know, what are my timesheets? I could go into those and edit those. I could go and add expenses in, which is probably one of the more common ones. So if I just drop this in quickly, it tailors all the information on these forms that's pertinent to me. So it will only show me stuff that's relevant. You know, for instance, it'll only show me the projects that I'm actually working on and the activities I'm eligible to work on as well. We can even add photos to it. So if I hit here, I'll say, okay, I want to add a photo, tap that out. And then that's my expense created. I save that back. You can see at the minute it's in a draft state. So if I just head back in there and just submit that, then that goes off now into Dynamics. So if I hop back over to here, and if I go into the app for operations, I'm going to So if I head over to expenses, then that one's just come in. I think it was that one. So no, it's inputted all the information for me via that form I filled in on the mobile app, and it's even dropped in the photo that I just took as well. So it kind of does all that for you really simply, and obviously that's just to show you, okay, we're giving you this foundation to start building on, and you can build those little discrete apps, etc., to help your business processes. Okay, so that's probably as much as I was going to show for today. I don't know if we've had any questions. I'm not seeing anything pop up in the chat. If anybody's got any questions now, more than happy to answer them. Or like I say, if you want to grab me via those contact details I flashed up earlier, then I'm happy to take questions via email. So, okay, we've got a hand up. Richard.
Hi, Nathan. That was really interesting. I'm Richard Collins. I'm an independent consultant working with not-for-profits. It's the first time I've seen this, and it looks pretty rich, I have to say, pretty good. One classic problem, though, for products that come over from the States are things like, historically, things like direct debits and gift aid. Are they, which are not normally part of the United States sort of charity practice?
Yeah,
What's
sure.
the situation with those?
So what I'd encourage you to do there is probably, you know, go onto the non-profit Microsoft site, and there are a bunch of partners that are listed on there. I work for one of those, but there are a host of them, you know, and they offer, you know, extensions of the accelerators, you know, and there are ones that do offer things like direct debit processing, gift aid processing, you know, the CAF voucher scheme, that kind of thing. They offer the extensions on top of this. Some of them charge for those, some of them do actually give them away for free as well. So, you know, the idea of this is it's creating that ecosystem, like I say, as a foundation, and there are many partners now who were, you know, historically working in that vertical that have started to offer their particular expertise to build on top of it as well. And again, that is stuff that is, some of it's open source. So you haven't got to worry about that vendor lock-in thing. If something happens to that partner, you've got access to the nuts and bolts you need to be able to use it.
Okay. If I can squeeze a second quick one in, in terms of some products like Razor's Edge, for example, provide a separate sort of capability where you can build a portal for so supporters can make donations, book to events, etc. Is there any similar capability in this product?
Good question. So really, that's leveraging existing functionality within Dynamics or the Power Platform itself. There's not a lot being done in terms of this accelerator around that, because Dynamics and Power Platform, it has their own concept of portals. Again, they're really easy to set up. They're drag and drop. So if you want to do that, you can do that, and you can hook it back into this this system to capture, like you say, whether it's attendees for events or whether it's to make donations, that kind of thing. That's all possible as well.
Sorry, one very far. How many people? How many charities roughly are you now using this?
Gosh, I don't have the answer to that. I think on the Fundraising and Engagement website, Dynamics customers was about 200,000, I think, across the world. But I don't know the figures firsthand for that. But it's there's a lot of them, and there's a lot of traction around it as well. Just because, like I say, a lot of this intellectual property is free. They're giving it away free, so that's obviously a key thing, isn't it? Okay.
Thank you.
Awesome. No worries, Richard. Cheers. Any other questions?
Richard Collins has his hands up. I don't know if he has a question.
Yeah, that's Richard. Yeah, Richard, can put your hand down now. Okay, cool. So I think that's it, I guess. Awesome. Well, thanks for coming along, guys. I guess the video will be up if you want to play it back. And like I say, contact me with any questions. I'm more than happy to answer those.
Okay, so guys, I basically want to thank Richard for, Nathan for his session. It was really great. If you want to take yourself off mute to give him a round of applause, I would do that. Thank you very much. And as I said, this session will be available on YouTube in the next week. Nathan, thank you so much again.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, guys.